The new year is an opportunity for a clean slate and a fresh start. Some people may choose to learn a new skill, like how to cook or how to speak a different language. Others may focus on improving existing areas of their life, such as being on time or waking up earlier. Regardless of what people pick, only about 20% of people are able to maintain their New Year's resolutions, according to the U.S. News & World Report. That's an 80% failure rate. Today, we're going to introduce 3 easy, achievable resolutions that align with the pillars of good health: sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Plus, we'll give you some tips to help you keep your resolutions through 2024 and beyond. That's all coming up today on Stronger Together with Dr. Dave. Hello and welcome to Catholic Health, Stronger Together with Dr. Dave. Today, we're talking about some easy, achievable New Year's resolutions and how to make them stick. Our first guest is someone we've had on the show before and always gives such great advice. I'd like to introduce you to Catholic Health's Director of Sleep Services, Brendan Duffy.
Thank you for the invitation.
What is the recommended amount of sleep for the average person?
The average person, it really is age dependent. So for a young teenager, it might be from 8 to 10 hours. But if you ask, the numbers are usually 7 to 9. But it shouldn't be, it's not cast in stone. There are people that are outliers on either side of that. But somewhere between 7 to 9 for an adult, for younger kids, 8 to 10. That's where we run into problems with school start times because they start so early. These kids can't fall asleep until later, so it tends to take some of that time.
Right, and what happens if we don't get these recommended hours of sleep? What are some of the potential health complications that people may not be aware of?
There's a host of them. Cardiac issues as far as associations with stroke, heart attacks, AFib, mood disorders, anxiety, car accidents, diabetes, obesity. So it really starts the chain. That's why I was glad I was the first of the talks in the series, because it kind of impacts everything that you could think of as far as nutrition, exercise, and mental health, physical health, Alzheimer's. It's across the board, and we're starting to pick up on how important it is.
Even some of the busiest professionals and professions are realizing that sleep is really non-negotiable. What is the right time to wake up? Is there a right time to wake up?
The best time to wake up is when you wake up. Ideally, if you didn't have to get to a job at 9 o'clock, sometimes your body, your chronotype is not set up. There are early birds and night owls. So it's unfair for the night owls to say when is the best time to get up, because they would tell you 11 o'clock, but their job starts at 9. So they always have difficulty. So certain companies are actually going out of the way. They have what's called BPT, best prime time, where they realize productivity is impacted by sleep. They'd rather have productive companies like Google and other companies. They'd rather have productive workers, so they'll be more flexible, especially coming out of remote work. If they're coming back, they're trying to be more flexible and say, it doesn't really matter if you come in at 11 o'clock. If that's when you're going to be more productive, let's do that. And that's better for their overall health for the employee.
It's so interesting. Forever we were 9 to 5.
Yes.
Is there any data, genetically speaking, that some of us are wired genetically to be night owls or early morning people?
There is, and usually somewhere between 25% is early bird and the other 25-30% at night, and the rest of us are somewhere in the middle. But there is a morning eveningness questionnaire that's out there that people could take, and it kind of tells them what their best times are, for work and things like that. So there is a questionnaire. I use it with the athletes sometimes, because even in sports, who gives you your best opportunity to win? You want to know who the person is that's more productive on the court at night. versus somebody that may be more of a morning person. So you look at the time of the game and you look at the athlete.
That's interesting. Wow. So the starting quarterback may differ based on whether they're playing earlier or later.
Or which pitcher you want to put in, a night game versus a day game.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If you're trying to improve your sleep pattern, what are a couple of tips that we can tell the viewers that maybe they can implement?
Sure. Consistency, that's the main thing. Get up at the same time, even if you have a bad night. Try to be consistent night after night, because again, with the night owls, when they're working that 9 to 5, what happens on the weekend is they sleep in. And then Monday rolls around again, and they think it's 60 minutes that's causing that anxiety, but it's really the fact they slept in, and now they know they're going to have a tough time sleeping Sunday night. So they start with jet lag every weekend. So it's social jet lag. It's kind of like they went to California and came back every weekend, so they're starting up on
Social jet lag.
Yep.
Interesting, okay.
So consistency is number one. Temperature, you want to have a cool temperature, because our body core temperature has to drop at night. So we want to try to set it somewhere around 68 degrees.
Yes.
One of the ways to do that is go in and take a warm shower before you go to bed. That will help. When you come out, the heat will dissipate, your core temperature will lower. I know we're coming into holidays. Alcohol, you have to kind of restrain yourself from too much making merry, because the alcoholic drinks, it's really a sedative. It's not sleep. So you're knocking yourself out, and then once that alcohol is in your system, it's going to fragment your sleep. It's going to dehydrate you, so you're going to have a bad day. And on the other side is caffeine. So some people like their caffeine, and it's great in the morning, but if you have it too late, even if you don't think it interrupts your sleep, when they look at the sleep staging that you have, it has different sleep patterns, so you're not getting a good quality sleep. So those are some of the main things.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. I took your advice during the last show, and I set my house to 68 degrees at night, and I've been sleeping much better.
Beautiful.
So I'm paying attention, and I hope the viewers are paying attention also.
Great.
Brendan, this was so great, and it couldn't be better timing, because this is the new year, and I know sleep is going to be on everybody's agenda.
Yep.
So thank you for joining us, and we'll definitely have you come back.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Brendan. Coming up next, are you committed to eating healthier in the new year? We'll hear from Catholic health expert who will tell us the types of food we should be targeting and how to make them taste great. That's coming up next on Stronger Together with Dr. Dave. Welcome back to Catholic Health Stronger Together with Dr. Dave. We just heard the best ways to get a good night's sleep in the new year. Now we're going to focus on creating a healthy nutrition plan. My next guest is the Director of Food and Nutrition at Good Samaritan University Hospital. He has a culinary degree and is also a registered dietitian. So not only does he make the healthy food, but he tastes it too. I'd like to introduce you to Rich Dosher. Rich, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Dave.
This is a really important topic. I mean,
Absolutely.
nutrition, I'm a cardiologist. Nutrition is one of probably the number one question I get. What should I eat?
Sure.
You know, what type of diet? So let's get to it. So the first question is, there are so many diets and so many food options available. Let's just talk about what makes a balanced diet.
Sure. I think even before we talk about a balanced diet, I think that we should look to rephrase that a little bit. Diet is that dreaded four-letter word that really kind of conjures up a lot of negative thoughts, patterns, right? People think my life is over. I'm going to have to suffer with grilled white meat chicken breasts and grilled vegetables and salads, right?
Right.
So I think really changing the optics on that and really kind of changing it into more of a healthier eating plan. And then also, before even diving into some of the food groups, I think it's important to focus on timing. There's a lot of evidence that kind of supports us really consuming food after an hour upon waking, and then also no closer than 2 hours closer to bedtime. Also talking about meal structure as well, making sure that we have a healthy meal plan. We're not just surviving off of caffeine for 2/3 of our day and then trying to consume everything, you know, close to bedtime as well. And then getting away from a lot of the restrictive mindset. What we tend to kind of advocate for is more, you know, everything in moderation, so an 80-20 rule. And then, and then we can sort of dive into some of the more food groups and what is more recommended. For me personally, I tend to advocate more for whole food groups. Whole food options rather than commercially prepared products. So any of your, fruits, vegetables, greens as well. When we start talking about proteins, looking for more leaner protein options, such as all white meat chicken breast, When you talk about pork and beef, looking at more leaner cuts such as loin, round. Seafood is definitely something that is not consumed as much, but definitely something that we advocate a lot for, especially some of our cold water fatty fishes, salmon, tuna, mackerel, herring. As you're very well aware of, omega-3 has been widely researched in not only just combating inflammation, but is definitely a essential fatty acid. And then carbohydrates, which for most people make up the center of the plate and should really kind of, act more as a side dish. We should be reducing the total consumption of, pastas, breads, and rices, and focusing kind of more on the assortment and array of whole grain options: farro, quinoa, millet, barley, also lentils, pulses, and beans as well. And also a part of a good healthy eating plan would also be trying to look towards more meatless-based options or whole meal ideas as well. Not only just for you personally, but for your entire family as well.
What is your opinion on diet? I mean, everybody's talking about these diets. What do you think?
Sure. Well, fad diets are exactly what the name suggests. It's a fad. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Some have definitely stood the test of time. We've learned some good things from fad diets, but we've also learned some of the principles of these fad diets that don't necessarily resonate and don't launch person into a long-term sustained success with a healthy eating plan. Again, fad diets really box people in. It does not provide a patient-centric approach, which, not only just being a cardiologist doctor, but also within my profession and many other healthcare professionals, really try to provide more patient-centered care. And the fad diet puts everybody into one grouping, does not take into account, ethnic, cultural feeding practices, religious feeding practices. So trying to establish more of a healthier eating plan is definitely more advised rather than getting on to any of these latest trends.
If there's one food or food group you would like to see more of our patients consuming,
Sure.
What would that be? And if there was one food or food group you think we should consume less of, what would that be?
So again, kind of narrow it down into food. I would say more nutrient. I think if you definitely hit it when you talk about feeding your gut microbiome, and fiber is a huge source of
Absolutely.
that. Fiber is the fuel or the substrate that not only helps to regenerate our microbiome. Fiber, most Americans only hit about 50% of their recommended daily fiber intake, which is between 25 to 35 grams a day. So again, thinking back to my earlier response, as far as increasing more of the healthier sources of carbohydrates, some of our whole grains, is going to naturally increase one's fiber intake. Thus, not only just keeping us fuller over a longer period of time, stabilizing blood sugar so we don't have some of the highs and lows, but then also supporting one's gut microbiome as well, which is also linked to other chronic conditions. As far as eliminating one, again, not focusing so much on a food, but more on a nutrient, would be added sugar. Added sugar, for years, healthcare professionals are very well versed in this. It wasn't until recent that it was added on to the actual food label itself. So you have a total sugar and then an added sugar line. And so I'm not talking about the naturally occurring, like within milk, it's lactose, fruit, it's fructose. Right. It's the added sugar that food manufacturers put in. Our, again, recommended daily intake for men should be around 36 grams, and for women should be around 25 grams. When you equate that to a visualization, that's anywhere between 6 to 9 teaspoons of added sugar. And when you think about desserts, prepackaged items, carbonated beverages, if you have something that has 40 grams of added sugar, it could be up to as high as 10 teaspoons of that added sugar. And we know that it's linked to obesity, which then creates this snowball effect into type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, certain types of cancer. So looking and utilizing resources such as your food label to help reduce your overall intake of added sugars.
Yes, and I think your two choices would have been my two choices. Carbs are not the enemy. It has to be the right carbs, especially
absolutely.
Carbs with fiber, and get rid of the sugar.
Absolutely.
All right, this was great. This was
more.
fantastic. I'm sure the viewers appreciate it, and we definitely have to have you back on the show.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us
today.
today.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Coming up next, it's one of the most popular New Year's resolutions, but also one of the most challenging. We'll tell you what it is after the break. You're watching Stronger Together with Dr. Dave. Welcome back to Catholic Health, Stronger Together with Dr. Dave. Creating an exercise routine is hard enough, but making it a consistent part of your life can be a challenge for some people. Fortunately, we have an expert here today to help you get on track. Joining me is Matt Scott, a physician therapist who oversees Catholic Health's Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation Center in Westbury. All right, Matt, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're going to talk about a topic that tons of people talk about all the time. Why do people have such a hard time exercising?
At the end of the day, it has to do with time, right? You know, there's such a strict protocol on everyone's day, work, family, events, that typically the thing that gets dropped off the map is exercise. And not a lot of people know this, but exercise is really not that hard to get into, especially 10, 15 minutes through your day. Just getting started and how to actually get started is the tough part.
For somebody who's watching right now who doesn't exercise or is thinking about exercise, give us some tips. What's a couple easy tips that we can just start to exercise in?
It really comes down to what you enjoy. It's stuff that you like to do. It could be walking, could be starting on a bike, not going from 0 to 60.
Right.
It's starting basic and getting into stuff that you like to do. And I always typically tell all my patients, start easy and then build on it. Could be a jog, could be going to a park, could be biking, could be swimming, could be as easy as that. And that's typically where I tell my patients to start off. And it could also be going to a gym, just getting on with a trainer, getting into exercise with them and getting pushed that way. So that's typically what I say to start with and then build into it that way.
Yeah, I love it. But one mistake I see a lot of patients make is they're gung-ho. They'll hire a trainer, right? They're ready to go. And then after the training session, they're paralyzed for like a week.
Right.
So that's kind of like it's great to hire a trainer, but the trainer also has to be realistic. If somebody hasn't been exercising, they need to tailor that program so that they come back in a day or two.
Right.
And they're not home in bed, it's sore.
Right.
Right. So, so I think being realistic is really important. So what are some of the main goals that you would tell somebody who's watching they should aim for when exercising?
There's multitudes, right? It could be to improve flexibility, it could be improving cardiovascular endurance, it could be improving strength, it could also just be improving mental stability. A lot of times use exercise as an outlet for stress, for work, for things that get you hopefully build you up throughout the day, and that's typically what I would tell my patients to do.
So if I'm walking into your office and I haven't exercised before, and what would you tell me? How many minutes should I start with? Should I do all weights or should I do some aerobics? So give me a 20-minute program in 10 seconds.
Oh, that's a good one. So I typically say start out with stretching. Stretching is the easiest thing you could do.
Before or after exercising?
Before.
Okay.
Of course, before.
Got
and
it.
It's easy to do because you could do it in the comfort of your own home, in your bed. And then I typically say, start with aerobic and then start into a little bit of muscle strengthening. The easiest way to do strengthening is body weights. So if you do body weight training, it's a little bit easier than just saying, okay, lift up a 10, 15 pound weight. So I typically say stretch, aerobic, then go into a little bit of strengthening.
So a body weight could be you're leaning up against your kitchen counter and doing push-ups, right? Or you're holding onto the counter doing squats.
Right.
It doesn't have to be fancy or even go to the gym.
Right.
Right. Pretty simple. Keep it simple.
Right. Keep it simple. Yeah.
Does it help to have a trainer or a coach?
It can. The hard thing is that some trainers, they specialize in certain areas, and some coaches like certain activities over other activities. So it's really, like I said, finding your niche and finding something you're comfortable with that makes you happy and also doesn't completely kill you for the next day, right? And that's the important thing about finding the right fit for a trainer or a coach.
What are some tips to get into a routine? Hopefully make it sustainable.
And this is where I go back to doing things that you enjoy, right? For me, it's sports. For someone else, it might not be sports. It might be going for a walk. It might be going for a swim. It might be just going to the gym. Something that can make you look forward to exercising. And that's the hard thing to kind of incorporate. And I always start my sessions by saying, what do you like to do?
Yeah.
What do you like to do throughout your day? What makes you happy? And incorporating that into it. And it could be as simple as cooking. Okay, you like to cook? All right, let's do some upper extremity exercises that simulate you flipping a pan or something like that. So, again, going back to what you enjoy.
Yeah,
And
that's
the hard thing.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Boy, we don't hear that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because people, especially this time of year, New Year's resolution, thinking of exercise, they're thinking dread.
Yeah.
Right? They're not thinking fun. Maybe we need to start thinking more fun.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Being a little bit more childlike and playful and having fun with it.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
That's amazing. I like that. We should end on that note, because that's
sure.
really that's the take home message, is have fun with it.
Yeah,
Don't make it a
absolutely.
dreadful
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
This was great, Matt. We definitely have to have you come back on, because
Absolutely.
exercise, as you know, is going to be something that comes up over and over again.
Absolutely.
And thanks for taking time out of your busy
Thank
schedule.
you so much. I appreciate you guys having me.
It's
a
our
wonderful
pleasure.
opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks. Coming up after the break, it's one thing to set a New Year's resolution, it's another thing to keep. We have an expert standing by with some helpful advice just for you. Stay tuned. You're watching Stronger Together with Dr. Dave. Welcome back. Today we've given you the information to start healthy sleep, nutrition, and exercise routines. Now, we want to help you keep them. Joining me now is Catholic health psychiatrist Dr. Shibi Abraham. Welcome, Dr. Abraham.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about New Year's resolutions, because most people tend to have one. Whether they stick to it or not, that's a different story. Aren't these habits, these resolutions, aren't these things we should be doing any time of the year? Why January 1st? Why do people want to create a resolution?
So it's a good question, and you're right. It should be something that should be done any time in the year or throughout the year. But a lot of times we as humans tend to go towards traditions, social norms, and we tend to follow it because it's on New Year's Day, and we all think, let's put our old self away, old habits aside, and start the new year with the new me. And actually, this is something that's been tradition for 4,000 years. Babylonians first started it, where they rung in the new year and celebrated it with the new king, and they paid off all their old debts, gave away old farms or anything else that they owed, so that they would get favor from the gods. And similarly, we follow this pattern. In the medieval times, you had the knights that did something called peacock vows. And what that was just reaffirming their commitment to chivalry. And this is something they did end of Christmas, beginning of the year. And over the years now, it's become more of a fad where, yes, I have a New Year resolution. Sometimes people are serious about it, sometimes they're not. But in fact, it's something that's an ongoing process that we should actually continue, like you mentioned, any time of the year, throughout the year, because it's a constant progress on ourselves to make ourselves better.
So people watching this show, they don't have to feel obligated to start January 1st with a resolution, right? If you want to start another time of year, you can. There's nothing wrong with that.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay,
We don't
excellent.
need to wait for the ball to drop.
Right. So the next question is, why is it so hard to keep these New Year's resolutions?
So there are many reasons, but the top most reason I would think that it's so hard is because we tend to put goals or resolutions, which is basically a firm decision to do something or not do something. And we do that, we make goals that are so difficult for ourselves to achieve. Goals that we haven't been able to achieve in the last 1 year, that will take a long time. We put that in front of us, so it's more likely that we may fail because it's things that are not realistic. And I sometimes think, like I tell my patients, we are our worst enemy sometimes, because we put these tough and difficult goals for us that we know is hard to achieve, and we still do that to ourselves. And then when we fail at it, there's an emotional attachment to it where you start to feel dejected and you start to feel like a failure. So it's actually goals that you can achieve. Those are the first. The second reason is consistency. So not being consistent. You mentioned that we do goals in the beginning of the year, and a lot of times if we fail, we stop there. We don't continue throughout the year. 81% of people failed their New Year's resolution by February. 31% continue on throughout the year. And this is because we have that mindset that, okay, if we don't achieve it, then that's it. I have to wait for the end of the year to make new goals. And that's not the case. It should be consistent throughout the years. And lastly is because we tend to make goals that we don't like to do, or it's because it's not something that fits in our lifestyle. So somebody who wants to lose weight, let's say, and they want to lose weight, but they hate the gym. They make a goal, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week or every day in the new year, but they absolutely hate indoor closed places like the gym. So instead of that, choose something outdoor. Go for a run or a jog, 15, 30 minutes in the morning or afternoon. So something that you love and that can fit into your schedule and environment.
So to summarize, set goals that is somewhat reasonable. We don't have to be so hard on ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Try to be consistent. So what happens if I say, okay, I'm going to try to be closer to plant-based or vegetarian, and I mess up the first week? Should I just quit?
Absolutely not. That's where, you know, we all backslide. We all have our days, and where if you're doing well on the goal, you pick yourself back up. It's just like anything else in life. If you have moments or days that you didn't do well, pick yourself and continue to move, because the resolution should be an ongoing progress throughout the year that you continue every single year. Then only can you achieve results.
And that's where the consistency comes in.
That is correct.
Giving yourself some slack to be consistent.
Yes.
And then try to do something you somewhat enjoy also.
Yes.
Tie the goal to something maybe enjoyable.
And that gives motivation.
Right, that's excellent. Are there any other helpful tips or advice to keep New Year's resolution? But it sounds like kind of what you just said is stick to those principles.
Yes, and I would say short-term goals and long-term. So initially having resolutions, if somebody wants to lose 50 pounds in a year, and if you haven't been able to do that and your lifestyle is very busy, you have children, you have homework for them, you work, and all of that, so it's very difficult to incorporate gym 3 hours a day. There are people who can do that. So if that's something that's there, say 50 pounds or long term in 5 years, break that down and give intervals. So you would say in a year, I will try to lose 5 to 10 pounds, which means it's half to 1 pound a month. That's doable. So that should be your short-term goal for the year. And in long-term, in 5 years, as you continue each year, you keep losing weight and get to your long-term goal of hopefully 50 pounds.
That's amazing advice. Now, you know what the viewers are thinking right now. They want to know, what is a psychiatrist's resolution for 2024? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I do have two. One would be a personal and professional, so I always divide. My personal goal is something that, as I mentioned in all these things, the beginning of the year, as the most common resolution is to lose weight, healthy lifestyle, financial, exercise. So I had similar, is to lose weight. So I started off the year with healthy lifestyle, and initially the weight numbers don't change. So I was thinking, okay, just like everybody else, nothing's happening. But clothes started fitting better, but my lifestyle, my lab reports when I went to the doctor was all perfect. Wow. So seeing that motivated me that it's not just about the numbers, it's a healthy lifestyle, and even if the numbers don't change, I'm healthy, I feel better about myself. So I want to continue that onto the new year, so that I'm going to continue my current resolution for the long-term goal. Professionally, as I always tell my children as well, you know, being mindful not just of people around you and seeing where they are, but also what we can do to help them. It's one thing looking at them and saying, oh, I'm grateful for what I have, but giving back to the community, giving back to people. So I hope to continue to help my patients, but I think if we all had a resolution where we try to help one person a year, it doesn't have to be, we can't help everyone in the world, but if each person did one person every single year, we would be stronger together.
And that's a perfect, I like that, stronger together, you incorporated it. Excellent. So that's a great way to end this segment, and we definitely have to have you come back, if not next year, earlier. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to Dr. Abraham and all my guests for such a great show. I hope we've given you everything you need to set and keep some healthy resolutions in 2024. If you would like to know more about Catholic Health or to make a gift in support of one of the amazing programs you heard about today, please visit chsli.org or call 1-855-CHS-4500. Thank you for watching today. I am Dr. Dave Degatti, and I'll see you next time on Catholic Health, Stronger Together with Dr. Dave.